Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host and most, Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, April the 6th, 2022, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host and most, Will Buchanan, on How the Frack We Got, only How the Frack We Got Here. That was a terrible intro, by the way. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. I'm your host and most, Will Buchanan. And of course, as you can see, as I have just completely massacred my intro, and if you're still watching, welcome. We are a family-friendly podcast. We do try to watch our language, however words do fly at the same time. There may be things that might be shown that might be a little too graphic for younger viewers. So viewer discretion is advised. And if you're still here, welcome. That's a wonderful way to mess up an intro, by the way. We're going to keep it rolling. All right. So what do we have for the middle of the week? Well, you guys have been saying this. A lot of news has been out there as of lately. I keep on talking about things with the election. I keep talking about how states are changing laws, especially toward women and LGBTQ plus members. But sometimes a state gets it right. And I cannot be mad about this, specifically Colorado. Colorado governor signs bill to protect access to abortion. It's called House Bill 1279, the Reproductive Health Equality Act, which states that every individual has a fundamental right to make decisions about the individual's reproductive health care. My reading skills, including the fundamental right to use or refuse contraception. A pregnant individual has a fundamental right to continue a pregnancy and give birth or to have an abortion and to make decisions about how to exercise that right. And I got to take a breath. And a fertilized egg, embryo, or fetus does not have independent or relative rights under the laws of the state. To say it in so many words, guys, women have choice in Colorado, and that's how it should be. Of course, there's going to be people out there, the pro-life people are going to sit there and say that Colorado is going to become a killing state. Trust me, they're going to be coming there. I'm not going to be surprised about that. Because I've said it best. It amazed me so that more people are concerned about transgenders playing in women's sports than they are about women having rights of their own bodies. I have been saying this once, I've been saying it again. A woman's body is her own effing business. What she chooses to do with it, the choices and consequences are ultimately up to her. I'm going to sleep fine at night, regardless of what a woman decides to do. I mean, I always said it best. Sometimes an abortion is probably the most responsible thing you can do when you don't want to be a parent, or more than likely bring another person to this world that's eventually going to get lost in the system. Because adoption agencies, well, let's just be honest, they are messed up to begin with. Because again, adoption agencies, a lot of them, mostly religious based, they don't ban, but they don't allow same-sex marriages to adopt children because, the fear that there's an ongoing media out there or message or agenda to turn all of us gay. It doesn't work that way, but that's what some people believe. But anyway, Colorado actually, the governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, is actually doing a wonderful thing here and actually doing the one thing that should have been done across the world. Across the world, yes, but across the states, more than likely. That's what Roe versus Wade is for, which unfortunately is being circumvented due to a conservative leading Supreme Court, which is allowing the Texas law to stand. And I've been saying this, once they find a crack in that armor, there are going to be a lot of states that are going to try to exploit it. But I've never understood the attack on women on whether or not they just want to either to give birth or not to give birth. But again, shout out to Colorado. Shout out to the governor and Colorado, because let's be honest, the state that allows legal marijuana and a state that actually listens to women and controls their rights to their own bodies has to be saying a lot. Now, another quick story before we get to the heart of the news here. Another story, and I keep telling y'all guys this about the midterms. Those midterm elections are 5 months away. And I have been saying this the entire time. They are going to go after mail-in voting. They're going to go after minority voters. They're trying to redistrict. They're trying to redistrict counties to make it more advantageous for Republicans. I have been saying that even more so where Arizona Supreme Court rejects the GOP request to invalidate mail-in voting because the GOP believes that mail-in voting is unconstitutional. Yes, that was their argument. But again, the Supreme Court they're talking about is the Arizona Supreme Court. They actually rejected it, saying that they did not have enough of an argument to go ahead and move forward with this. But they did suggest that the case can be moved toward the Supreme Court, which again kind of makes me a little bit scared because again, the conservative Supreme Court has made some questionable calls as of late. And right now, with voting and the midterm elections being critical, and I have been saying this, and I'm going to keep saying this up until we get to the midterm elections, Democrats are going to have a harder time trying to get people to vote for them than they will Republicans. Republicans right now, even though they have done nothing this entire time but complain, blame Democrats, and offered no bills whatsoever, will still have it easier because they can, again, go after the voter base, which is, well, let's be honest, 90% idiots and 10% rich folks, corporations. But sit there and say that Biden has done a terrible job, that Fox News will still push its ultra-conservative propaganda and agenda. But again, I keep telling you guys this. They are going to go after the things that lost them not only the election, not only the presidential election, but lost in the special election, especially in Georgia. They are going to go after mail-in voting and minority voters because mail-in voting was a huge thing concerning the pandemic. A lot of people did use mail-in voting. A lot of people use drop-off ballot boxing. A lot of people use early voting. Trust me when I say this. Republicans will go after all of these things as long as if it's not advantageous to them. They're basically going to find a way to make it illegal, to make it harder, or just overall try to really dismay a lot of voters. They're going to try to dismay a lot of voters from voting because they've seen once a lot of people don't vote, 8 out of 10 times it goes in their favor. We saw that with the election between Trump and Hillary. That a lot of people didn't vote, but enough of the idiots did, and that's how Trump got elected. I mean, even though Hillary won the popular vote. Well, guys, unfortunately, until the Electoral College is disbanded and no longer used, we have to go by Electoral College. Do I believe the Electoral College should be gone? Yes. At this point, our population is big enough to where the Electoral College does not have the same effect anymore. I think we need to go by the popular vote. That's just me. But that being said, until Congress moves forward and actually disbands the Electoral College, that's the name of the game. Getting enough electoral votes within the Electoral College to basically win the nomination. In this case, Republicans are doing the smart thing. I say what you want to say about Republicans. They've done the smart thing. They went to state and local governments, had rules changed, got people in place they wanted, and now they are simply just going to sit there and hope that enough idiotic turnout will basically win it for them. But with mail-in voting, which again was a big thing that a lot of people use, if that is somehow turned away or somehow harder to get, you don't think that's going to affect votes? It's going to affect a lot of votes. At the same time, if they remove polling places, you don't think that if they don't close polling places, that's not going to deter people? Of course it will. But these are the tactics they're doing because Republicans realize that even though they're idiot in charge, let's be honest, he still is in charge, they still believe because Trump, who, by the way, used mail-in voting himself, will sit there and say that to make this unconstitutional, because why? That was an advantage to Democrats and a disadvantage to Republicans, which goes to show you that all Republicans want to do is disrupt the simple majority that Democrats have. But as I said before, Democrats are going to have a harder time because they haven't really racked up a lot of wins. Their campaign promises, I think they're like 3 for 10. And on top of that, they can't even get together to push something through on a simple majority. Very few things got pushed through. However, the Voting Rights Act, the John Lewis Act, the George Floyd Police Reform Act, the Build Back America Better Plan, Build Back America Plan, seem to all still be up in the air. But the only things that got pushed through was an infrastructure plan and the COVID hate bill. Oh, let's not forget the Emmett Till lynching that, it took us nearly a century to make lynching a federal hate crime, but better late than never, I guess. Just saying, Democrats are going to have a more difficult time. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this story as well because Minneapolis mayor, as you read this, extends the execution of the no-knock, ends the execution of no-knock search warrants by police. Now, when you first read upon this, I'm like, okay, well, this seems cool. We're finally getting rid of something that's actually led to the deaths of several African Americans. That being said, however, it does not completely end the use of no-knock warrants. Basically, it presents them. Basically, it just makes the requirements for no-knock warrant to be more restrictive. But it's not just the open door, hey, anybody get a no-knock warrant situation. Now, again, as the mayor did point out, Mayor Jacob Frey did say that there are still pressing circumstances where police entry into a property may be necessary. But I still wonder this because whenever we hear no-knock warrants, we think Breonna Taylor. We think several other events that where when a no-knock warrant was issued, a loss of life was happened. That didn't have to happen. I mean, you can go down the list. Breonna Taylor died in her sleep. The other individual, that case still going on, where he was he was a legal weapon carrying individual, and they shot him within 4 seconds of entering entering the home. I wonder about no-knock warrants because I'm sorry, no-knock warrants to me do not suggest. To me, no-knock warrants are not needed. I don't see why. Police need to enter a premises without knocking or announcing themselves. Okay, save that for terrorists. Save that for those who are. And I say this honestly. Save it for the high-profile, extremely dangerous individuals. If you cannot prove that, you don't get a no-knock warrant. But it has to be irrefutable proof. At the same time, this would force law enforcement to go back, check, double check, and check again that whatever house they're trying to enter is going to be the one they hit correctly. Because we've seen what happens again when no-knock warrants, whether you're waking up a woman who is just trying to get some sleep, but only be awakened in the night with guns in her face and she's naked and she's naked for the world to see, and police are trying to question her, or if you're just simply trying to sleep in your own home and police break in and you don't know who's coming around that corner. I say this all the time. I don't blame people for shooting at police that don't call themselves police when they enter in, because there are some situations where you enter a home and it's just like, okay, you hear something break in, you don't know who's in there. If you're like me and you're a firearms person, it's like, oh, somebody's trying to break in my house. Click, click. But again, that's those situations where, again, this is why I say no-knock warrants are dangerous and, again, lead to loss of life. But I do give the Minneapolis mayor some credit that, of course, we may not be able to get rid of no-knock warrants in its entirety. But I'm just saying from the other side of it that that really, for the simple fact of the matter, it can be reduced. I say treat no-knock warrants the same way you treat Republicans on mail-in voting. They want to make it harder for law enforcement to obtain them. That'll make sure that they're basically doing their job. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this other story as well. Again, it's almost a weekly story. Everything's going up at your paycheck. And again, with things going up at your paycheck, things are being cut back. Like I said, if you've been raised on the less than meager means, this is not new to you, but it seems to be a shock to a lot of people.
Now, to new signs, the record inflation is squeezing American wallets more than ever. Shoppers are now cutting like toothpaste, baby formula, and more. Chief Business Correspondent Rebecca Jarvis is back with more. Good morning again, Rebecca.
Hi, Michael. Nice to see you again. And we don't have to tell our audience that we have been hit with soaring costs on everything from gas to food to childcare, rents, and more. But according to new data from the research firm IRI, shoppers are starting to cut back on staples like laundry detergent, diapers, snacks, and soda. They are purchasing less, choosing cheaper store brands instead of premium options, and they're trading down to less expensive options like getting ground beef instead of steak. Consumers are also stepping up the hunt for deals. We've seen this shift especially pronounced for lower income shoppers and shoppers who may have purchased pricier options during the pandemic with whatever they were saving by not dining out, by not traveling, by not taking those trips to the movies. Now they are looking for the lower priced generic brands of household goods, brands that they bought before the pandemic, Michael.
And Rebecca, why does this matter?
Well, it matters both to those families who are struggling right now, struggling to put food on the table, struggling to get their necessities, but it also matters more broadly to the economy. When you see signs like this of people trading down, having to make these kinds of choices, it can mean a slowdown in the economy could be around the corner, Michael.
All right, we're back.
So one thing that always annoys me, I mean, there are just some questions. There are just really some questions that you really shouldn't ask. Oh, well, people are cutting back because prices are increasing, but not their paychecks. What does this mean? What do you mean? What does this mean? Literally, people are trying to make ends meet. You're trying to take a penny and stretch it into $1 is what you're trying to do. But what they're not saying out of all this is, why are prices increasing? I have been saying this. I have been wondering this. And again, these are the things that just make me question a lot. And not only question a lot, but at the same time, guys, it just tells me that we're ignoring the bigger problem. That why is it that companies, keep in mind, companies are raising prices. Now, what they didn't say in there is that there are companies out there making profit. And I'm like, there's a problem with this. There is a problem when you have companies making record profits in a pandemic situation. Not just gas companies, which, by the way, gas and oil companies are making, it's Christmas. It is Christmas in April for them. But for food companies, I don't see Tyson. I don't see companies like Tyson. Tyson has recorded a loss. They've recorded gains. General Mills, again, gains. I mean, we can keep going down the list here. Purdue Farms, don't see them having a record fall off, because the thing about it is, guys, the corporations and companies in the U.S. are not held to anything. They're not. When there's a shortage, they can raise the prices, especially for groceries. You know why? We need to eat. We need to eat in order to survive. We need to eat in order to survive. And these companies that produce this food will turn around and sit there and say, oh, well, we can raise the prices and you can't really say spit because this is what you need. We are giving it to you. And that is messed up. Even more so that, especially if you think about the gas companies by any chance, are still getting subsidiaries. They're still getting paid by the government in the same sense farmers were at one point, and they are still getting profits. So the question is not the matter of, what does this mean? The question we should be asking ourselves is, how these corporations that have all this windfall of cash that's coming to them, are they getting taxed more, or are their subsidiaries being taken away from them? That should be the question we should be asking ourselves. More importantly, we should be asking our politicians. But that would mean we'd also have to get rid of Citizens United lobbying, because that's how a lot of these corporations get by. Just saying. But anyway, moving right along, guys. I did want to cover this story. Again, I'm going to keep covering the story until we finally, hopefully get to see some history made this week. Honorable Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, they did just vote in the confirmation to have it moved from the confirmation committee to the Senate. And again, she is garnishing some Republican support. And who knew that Republicans, or some of them, will come around to seeing a Black woman's way of view that isn't Omarosa, Condoleezza Rice, or Candace Owens? Who knew?
Now to Supreme Court nominee Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Her confirmation is the first Black woman on the Supreme Court, all but assured by Friday. Congressional correspondent Rachel Scott has the latest. Good morning, Rachel.
George, good morning. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is now on the brink of a historic confirmation. And this morning, we are learning she has earned even more bipartisan support. A total of 3 Republican senators say they will now support Judge Jackson's confirmation to the Supreme Court. The latest, Senator Lisa Murkowski, joining Senator Susan Collins, announcing that she will vote yes. In a statement, Murkowski praised Jackson's qualifications and the important perspective that she would bring to the court. She also called out the corrosive politics around this process, saying it is growing worse and more detached from reality by the year. Senator Mitt Romney then followed, announcing his support in a statement saying she meets more than the standard of excellence and integrity. And with the help of those 3 Republicans, Democrats were able to advance Judge Jackson's nomination out of the Senate Judiciary Committee, putting her on a clear path to being confirmed by the full Senate by the end of the week, George.
And Rachel, cover yourself.
So again, I thought that was pretty cool, that we actually may get to see history get made, especially seeing Ketanji Brown Jackson, the Honorable Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, will become the first African-American woman to be elected to the highest court in the land. We hope. Keep in mind, If you guys follow, I know a lot of people.
Vice presidential candidate.
Hold up. Quiet you. I don't want you to talk yet. But what I'm saying is, guys, I am hopeful just because the fact of the matter is that, I really do hope we get to see our first African-American judge, who's a woman. I mean, you count Clarence Thomas, I really don't, but that's a whole nother story. But again, if you guys, like I said, I watch C-SPAN. I know a lot of people don't watch C-SPAN. I do, just to actually see, because C-SPAN does allow you to see what the arguments and debates are over in Congress. I cannot tell you, when I was watching the one for Johnny Brown Jackson, that again, a lot of older white conservatives, Republicans, were really against her, saying, "Oh, well, I just don't feel the way." And they cited, of course, Lindsey Graham, the biggest Trump cheerleader there is. I think she's soft on crime. No, she's not. She's actually, like I say, she's ruled for law enforcement. She's ruled against law enforcement. She's litigated within the confines of the law, as a judge should. And of course, Senator Ted Cruz, I still can't believe how this man gets reelected every time, also came out and said that, she's a liberal choice. And the fact of the matter is that we had another black person up here and you guys didn't want to do this. And I'm like, no, that's happened before. That hadn't happened the way he describes it. But again, it's like, what else do you have against this woman? I said before in a previous podcast, she has had more years of experience than the last two Supreme Court justices combined, more education than the last two Supreme Court justices combined, has served as a law clerk for the council and the retired Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer. She is more than qualified to be a Supreme Court justice. But why do a whole bunch of old white men care that a very smart black woman becoming a Supreme Court justice scares them? In the same sense, how old religious sexually repressed white people are scared of trans people. You fear the unknown because instead of you getting to want to know it, you rather bury it, like you buried much of America's past history. Just saying. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this next story. Unfortunately, like I said before, things are getting weird in the world of politics. And the thing about politics is it's a revolving door. No matter how bad you think you bombed, you can come back. And unfortunately, one person is coming back that I thought we would never hear from. And let's just play the tape.
Now to Sarah Palin, the former vice presidential candidate who was also an Alaska governor, announcing overnight that she is running in the special election to fill the vacancy left by Republican Representative Don Young, who died last month after serving 49 years in the House. ABC's Karen Travers has more. Good morning to you, Karen.
Good morning, Eva. Sarah Palin has been out of politics for nearly 13 years, but now she says she's jumping back in, and she is already shaking up the race for Alaska's only House seat. The former Republican vice presidential candidate writing on Facebook, "Public service is a calling," adding, "America is at a tipping point. As I've watched the far left destroy the country, I knew I had to step up and join the fight." When John McCain picked her to be his running mate back in 2008, Sarah Palin was the governor of Alaska, but she was unknown to most Americans. She quickly became a political star. Despite losing that race for the White House and then stepping down as governor, Palin became a hero to what became the Tea Party movement. She helped to mainstream the populist strain of Republican politics that was later embraced by former President Donald Trump. In many ways, she blazed a trail for Trump and his outsider candidacy. Palin may have left office, but she remained in the public eye. She wrote some books, she made appearances on cable news, and she even starred in a reality television show. And Sarah Palin's entry into this House race is already dramatic. The Anchorage Daily News reporting that on Friday, she was at the election office just before the deadline to file paperwork. And Palin is joining a very crowded field. There are more than 40 candidates running in this special election. Gio?
All right, we'll see what happens. Karen Travers, thank you.
Okay, so literally and figuratively, guys, I am amazed. Sarah Palin. How could I? How could I put this? Sarah Palin. I prefer the Lisa Ann version, but welcome to politics. Because keep in mind, she basically, as the journalist had said, that yes, it was because of her antics, her speaking out, the whole going rogue thing, that she was allowed to, that, Donald Trump sat there and said, oh, I could do that. I could do that better than her. Matter of fact, I'm the best person that could do it, I know. Yeah, that's where it came from. But the scary part is GOP needs a lot of things, but to have somebody that come in that only white guys and Fox News could sit back alone and handle joysticks looking at her, yeah, that's the only thing she's good for. Aside from the fact of failed reality shows that her children have been in the press, she's kind of like that 15 minutes of fame that was gone about 12 years ago, and now she's trying to come back. But what's scary is imagine her and Trump being together. Say what you want, idiots love a good train wreck, and that is a train wreck ready to happen. So, like I said, I prefer the Lisa Ann version. But anyway, moving right along, guys, this story again, I think is absolutely crazy because of all things in school that you think that teachers and that security should be worried about, apparently it's an abundance of food that this Pennsylvania school system is going after. I wish I could make this up.
Starting Monday, the Aliquippa Junior Senior High is limiting what snacks students can bring to school. The district posted the new rule on Facebook, which now has hundreds of comments and shares. It says due to excessive amounts of snacks being brought in, each student will only be permitted to have a bag of chips up to 4 ounces and one closed drink up to 20 ounces. Some parents tell me that's reasonable.
I've seen some of the snacks that the kids are bringing when I drop my daughter off at school, and I'm like, I'm asking my daughter, like, are they setting up a small store or something? Like, why are they carrying, like, variety boxes of chips and, 2 liters of soda into the school?
However, other parents online are furious because the rule also applies for students who pack their lunch, and lunches will be searched.
I guess I kind of see their view with, as far as lunch goes, that they're monitoring how many snacks that they bring for lunch.
A school board member tells me she thinks this is in place for safety reasons.
After seeing the news last night and seeing that there are other districts in the area that are dealing with children bringing in items into the school, South Allegheny just had 6 students that had edibles. We don't need to put our children at risk. We have to make sure that they're safe within our buildings.
The superintendent, Philip Wood, said some students are selling or trading snacks, which is causing arguments and distractions, so they want to minimize that.
We just kind of have to look at the bigger picture of the situation and understand what's reasonable. I don't think any child needs to bring in family-sized bags of chips for the day. The children aren't going to starve because they do have free meals for breakfast and lunch. And a diabetic child, honestly, and I'm a diabetic myself, they're not going to be bringing in family-sized bags of chips for themselves because they can't eat that stuff.
Okay, so here's the problem I have with this. Here's the big problem I have with this. First and foremost, as a former student myself, nobody cared how much food we were bringing in. This whole thing of, kids are selling and trading food on campus. We were doing that in grade school. Hey man, I'll take 2 of your Jello and pudding pops, and you can take 2 of my strawberry shortcakes. Cool. I mean, the barter system is learned in grade school. You learn barter system and you learn the values of goods and services. At the same time, there was a guy selling snacks in my high school. I mean, that dude came in with a backpack full of 25 cents Doritos, Fritos, Funyuns. You paid your 50 cents. You got what you wanted. Goods were purchased. That guy got his money. We got our food. Nobody complained. You have vending machines in high schools. At least when I was going to high school, there were vending machines that kids would get 20-ounce single Cokes, Sprites, Dr. Peppers. They get candy, everything else under the sun. And even though teachers try to sit there and say, well, don't bring Cokes into my classroom, some people, you couldn't stop it. Kids snacked, and nobody complained when sodas and chips and all this other stuff were put in there for elementary and high school. For elementary and high school students that are paid money to these vending machines because the schools made money off that. Nobody complained about all the sugar intakes and all the unhealthy fat foods that kids were eating. But things have changed. Kids are bringing in their own stuff now. If you're bringing a packed lunch, that you bring your own food in. But they gave so many excuses. Oh, it's a distraction. Oh no, food is never a distraction. We've had fights over this. Who do you know fight? What? Hang on a second. What kid you know fights over food? Unless it's his. Unless it's his or hers and someone try to snatch it, that's different. But that's rare. Because who's snatching food off anybody's plate no more? At the same time, guys, for the simple fact of the matter, it makes no honestly effing sense that you're going to sit there and use this as a way of saying, well, we just want to make sure the kids the kids are safe. The kids are fine. It's the fact that it's something that in school I will never understand how many times it gets brought up, but it just doesn't get old. It doesn't get old that they will find everything else to do wrong in a school except fix what's wrong in the school. You won't fix education, but you'll crack down on what student brings. You claim students have free lunches, but let's be honest, what is the condition of the food that you serve these children? At the same time, that free lunch, not a lot of them get it, especially with that program being ended very soon. So, look, as long as the child is learning, I can care less. For me, it's like this. As long as the child is learning and is adept and is paying attention in class, cool. I'm not going to stop that child. Because if snacks help him focus, help him focus. If a Coke helps him focus, I got no issue with it. But we need to stop cracking down on what we think is potential dangers and really fix what's wrong in the school system. Going after snacks, it makes no sense to me. That just sounds like to me like y'all realize y'all profits getting cut out because I guarantee the vending machines were that very same school that's doing those search checks and those kids bought up all the snacks they could. What's the excuse then? Because the school makes money off those vending machines is what it is. And that's messed up. But move right along, guys. I did want to cover this story as well because this is something that I wish companies would do that I think it's finally going to happen. I think above all else, it's finally going to happen. Well, for most companies finally going toward a 4-day work week and seeing how it works.
With American workers burnout and stress at all-time highs,
the Great Resignation is still here.
Employees are inventing new ways to recruit, hire, and keep qualified workers, even if it means letting them work less.
Lock that down here.
New York-based online clothing company Primary is joining the growing ranks of businesses now offering a flexible 4-day work week.
Employees said it was life-changing.
In 2020, it switched from 5 days to 4, reducing hours without reducing pay. Primary CEOs say that's helped boost morale and the company's bottom line.
It was important to us to give people back time so that they could truly recharge, so that when they come back to work on Monday, they are really ready for the week.
Do you feel like you're able to retain and hire employees better than other companies?
We've had amazing success retaining talent on the team, and I think that the 4-day work week is a part of that.
The perk, a dream come true for Ray Baker.
The 3rd day kind of gives me permission to relax and reset. I've started doing yoga, started working on art and different creative projects.
Online businesses aren't alone in their rethinking of Monday to Friday. From restaurant groups to manufacturers, shortened work weeks are crossing industries.
Hold that.
Take Ohio-based Advanced RV, for example. Starting this month, its 50 employees will try building the same number of vans in just a 32-hour week.
My first initial reaction was there is no way we can make this work. But I did come around to it and started thinking about it differently. How do we do more focused work?
Workplace consultants say the energy behind the recent push is unprecedented.
The cry for better boundaries around our work hours has only been exacerbated by the pandemic. The physical boundary that was left between work and life is now gone.
The movement is gaining traction overseas too, as countries and major companies like Microsoft and Unilever test shorter work weeks. In Iceland, a years-long trial was so successful that now 86% of its workforce is on track to work fewer hours after finding productivity remains the same or improved.
But some experts caution there's no one size fits all. It depends on the kind of job you have, the type of equipment involved, and customers' calendars. Companies shifting the status quo as employees enter the uncharted territory of the new normal. Emily Ikeda, NBC.
Something I've been saying that should have been happening for years, a 4-day work week. Look, I am all for working hard, really and truly I am, but at the same time, guys, I was tired. By Friday, yes, I'll be happy Friday is the end of the week, and Fridays I feel like I don't want to be productive and I don't really want to do anything, but I always say the best, the weekends are starting to feel like 30-minute lunch breaks. You look up, you wonder where 2 days went as you're bracing yourself on Sunday night to go right back into work Monday morning. It is draining. It is taxing. It's a lot. But imagine if you haven't had a 4-day work week. Imagine Monday through Thursday. And then Friday, you have, instead of 2 days, you have 3 days. Imagine having Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. Oh, it's not. Why do you think? And a lot of people, that's what I said, why look to holiday? We know those holiday weekends where you have those 3-day work, 3-day weekends, and sometimes 4-day weekends. The reason being is because of exactly this, that we are overworked. America is overworked. America is stressed out, especially this pandemic situation where people are working 1 or 2 jobs, or sometimes 2 jobs with a side hustle to make ends meet. Parents are trying to make a way for their children, and go down the list. Each of us has our own struggles and trying to actually meet them. But imagine if that stress was reduced if you had Fridays off. For a lot of people, they got some stuff that can only be done Monday through Friday. So all the more reason why a lot of people are for this, because we have to get out of this. And I love how companies say this. You've heard corporations say this all the time. We want you guys to maintain a work-life balance, which is kind of bullshit, because if you work for a corporation that demands 100% of your time, there is a work-life balance. Most folks, as I've said before, you become stressed out workaholics. At the same time, you have no time for yourself, no time for your mental, no time for family if you have one, or a wife if you have, or a wife or girlfriend if you have one. You have no leisure time, nothing to unwind, to unplug, to recharge. You're literally a compounded stress ball 24/7. So the whole idea of a 4-day work week, as I said before, I think it increases productivity. Now, for a lot of people say, well, how does that work? I say, well, some companies go 4 10-hour shifts. If you can go 10 hours a day for 4 days and you're off for 3, cool. I mean, some companies still get the same amount of work done in 4 days as they would do in 5. The point I'm trying to make is, if you give people time to unwind, relax, and de-stress, they typically work better and are more productive than stressed out individuals who only wake up, only go to bed, only to wake up and go right back to work, and that seems to be their entire life. Just saying, I like the idea of a 4-day work week. Now, unfortunately, as they said in the article, as I said in the news blip, the journalist did sit there and say that other countries are adapting this. Will America ever do it? That remains to be determined, because this whole thing of working hard, and like I said before, I'll say before, I got nothing against working hard. I do believe you have to bust your ass, but I also do believe that you can do it smarter. You can do it smarter, because if you work smarter, not harder, you'll still accomplish the same goal, but you're not going to burn yourself on the way out of getting there. I think a 4-day work week is cool. We'll see if it ever gets adapted in the U.S., aside from Microsoft and Google, just because they're tech companies. But I would love to see it every place else. Moving right along, guys. I did want to cover this story because, unfortunately, Trump puppet Ron DeSantis has went against some big people and unfortunately has won it out. However, his latest battle is involving a mouse, and I don't think he's going to win this one.
This morning, the so-called happiest place on earth plunging into the middle of a culture war. Florida's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis targeting Disney, the state's largest single-site employer.
And they are treated on a pedestal. This one corporation is treated differently than everybody else. Now in the legislature, you see a movement to reevaluate those special privileges.
The governor angry at Disney's opposition to the state's controversial new parental rights and education legislation, also known as the Don't Say Gay law. It bans classroom discussion on sexual orientation and gender identity from kindergarten through 3rd grade. In a statement, Disney says, our goal as a company is for this law to be repealed in the legislature or struck down in the courts. It's all amid the backdrop of cultural and political battles over the law and issues of representation, which conservatives hope to make a central issue of the coming midterm election. DeSantis fundraising off the fight. Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz tweeting, I'll tell you how to trap this rodent, and commentators taking aim.
Why not just rename the roller coaster, Sex Mountain?
DeSantis is suggesting a repeal of Disney's special status established by a 1967 law. It created a unique self-governing district around the 43 square miles encompassing Disney World, an area twice the size of Manhattan. As a result, Disney effectively has its own security force and building, zoning, and fire departments. This dispute comes after protests and a walkout by some Disney cast members when the company did little to oppose a bill before it was signed. Disney's CEO apologizing to employees last month in a letter writing, you needed me to be a stronger ally in the fight for equal rights, and I let you down. As for the escalating feud, Maryland's Republican governor criticizing DeSantis, calling it a crazy fight.
We have a thing called freedom of speech.
Okay, so Gary, break it down. What would it mean if Disney's special status is revoked?
Well, ultimately, it would be time and money. For example, I think any homeowner can understand this. If you've ever tried to do a renovation at your house or do an add-on, you have to go through that very laborious process with the building department to get all the paperwork done. Right now, Disney doesn't have to deal with that. But if they lost their status, they'd have to go through the local government, which would slow the process down. And of course, they're constantly building out of Disney.
So let's point this out, ladies and gentlemen. Let's really point this out. Governor Ron DeSantis believes that he can make Disney bend to his will. The same Disney that owns a lot of intellectual property. The same Disney that owns LucasArts. The same Disney that owns Marvel. The same Disney that owns ESPN. The same Disney that owns Fox. The same Disney who literally, not only in California and in Florida and various other areas around the world, makes buku bucks. They make Titanic-sized boatloads of cash. And Governor DeSantis, because anybody that goes against his parental rights and education bill knows that don't say gay bill, you're going to take on the mouse and try to invoke their special status that they have in Florida. Let's point something out here, Governor DeSantis. The last time you were elected, you won by 38,000 votes. The current employ of just one property in Disney alone employs well over 77,000 people. I don't think you're going to win this battle. And even more so that Governor DeSantis is like, well, Disney should get on board what I want to do. No. Because basically your bill is basically just completely messed up. And at the same time, that Disney cannot afford to lose workers, considering the fact that their current CEO failed to act fast enough when the law was introduced. So again, Governor DeSantis, I don't think this is a bill. I think this is about not only can you not win, but you could lose a lot more than just, your election. Just pointing that out, because I don't know if you ain't noticed, Mickey is kind of undefeated. But last part I got, guys, again, Barack Obama visiting the White House to basically not only celebrate the Affordable Care Act that he actually did champion and finally did get passed, but also had some words to say toward the Democrats, which are sorely needed right now.
Stepping back into what President Biden called the good old days, former President Obama returning to the White House for the first time since leaving office. A reunion of policy and friendship.
Vice President Biden, Vice President. That was a joke.
44 rejoining 46 to tout the anniversary of his signature health care law and to support President Biden's efforts to expand it.
Nothing made me prouder than providing better health care and more protections to millions of people across this country.
Both nostalgic and poking fun at a classic Bidenism that punctuated that day 12 years ago.
It is, to quote a famous American, a pretty Big deal.
Barack, let me remind you, it's a hot mic.
Tonight, President Biden announcing a rule change to cap coverage costs for families that he said will allow 1 million more Americans to get more affordable coverage. But it's also an opportunity for the former president to give the current commander-in-chief and Democrats a boost in a critical midterm election year, with President Biden's approval rating plummeting to 40% in the recent NBC News poll. 55% disapprove, and facing challenges like rising crime and record inflation.
The Democrats are in panic mode. They're in free fall because they created this crisis.
But tonight, former President Obama with a message for his party. What do you tell Democrats working on the midterms?
We got a story to tell, just got to tell them.
Tonight, Obama aides say he's had President Biden's back on major issues throughout his presidency and that he'll be active in support of Democrats leading into the midterms this fall.
You know, former President Obama is kind of like the guy that really did a great job, but apparently your replacement is kind of struggling, so you come back in to help out. That's what it seems like. Don't get me wrong. Still, I think that Barack Obama did an exceptional job as president, considering everything that he was under. The fact that the Affordable Care Act was literally and figuratively one of probably the hardest things to get passed since the New Deal. At the same time, you know, he's still saying that Democrats have a story to tell, just tell it. Yeah. Will they though? Because again, this is the problem with Democrats going, as we're on that road to the midterms, they don't have a lot to tout about. But at the same time, especially like I said, especially if you're Manchin or Sinema, because I'm sorry, not Manchin, Manchin. If you're Joe Manchin or Kristen Sinema, you're gonna have a hard time in your state trying to convince people to vote for you after the stuff that you pulled. That you two people single-handedly stopped a progressive agenda from happening, but I do get what the former president is saying. Got a story to tell, just tell it. But will they? Because again, it's a dice roll. Keep in mind that there is a lot riding on midterm elections because all Republicans have to do is just get one thing. Republicans' main job is to get the Senate or get the House. It would be perfect if they got the Senate, because if they did get the Senate, then that basically means that any bill that Democrats try to push forward can be immediately shot down just because they have the majority in the Senate. Because that's exactly what happened in Trump's presidency. Democrats had the House, Republicans had the Senate, and Republicans pretty much ran roughshod of Democrats because they could have done everything they wanted to, with Mitch McConnell being the Senate Majority Leader and only allowing so many bills to hit the floor. So if I was Democrats, there's a few things you can do. Rack up as many wins as you can. If I was them, I would go ahead and push forward the decriminalization of marijuana. Why not pass that bill immediately? If I'm being really honest, that one bill alone, if you passed a marijuana decriminalization bill and you passed it within this Congress, do not think for 1 second that would be overwhelming support. Because think about it, we decriminalize marijuana. Marijuana would now be considered legal, and possession of it would not be seen as a crime. Do not think that would be overwhelming support. That would almost wipe away almost everything else. But I'm just saying, beyond that, beyond lowering, finally passing this drug prescription cost, where insulin costs will be capped at $35. If those two bills got passed, if somehow Manchin and Sinema grew a brain and a heart and passed it with a simple majority and made those bills active, that would be overwhelming support for the Democrats. Just doing those two bills. But will they? That's the question. But former president is right. They do got a story to tell. If they're not out there telling people, hey, we're trying to get these two bills passed, help us to get the word out. Help us for people to understand this is to help you guys. That's all usually had to be done. But it remains to be determined. We'll see what happens next. But moving right along, guys, we're going to go to our feel-good segment because usually don't have the Frack We Got here. We do cover a lot of stories that are doom and gloom. Sometimes we can lose your faith in humanity, but hey, it's Wednesday. It's almost Friday, which tomorrow makes Thursday, and we want to leave you guys out some good notes, some positive vibes. And again, I found one, especially surrounding teachers, because again, for all those that don't know, I have a special place in my heart for educators. I don't think they get paid enough for the profession that they do, nor do they get the help and the assistance that they should be getting. The fact of the matter is they're giving taught meager means, and they are making magic with it. And that is just a testament to a lot of those educators that are dedicated to their profession as well as to enriching students' lives. And hopefully this next couple of stories will make you feel good, as they did with me.
Finally tonight here, we have reported so often here during the pandemic on the teachers across this country who never gave up, teaching from home, some on Zoom, some setting up libraries in their own garages. Well, tonight, back in class, but getting an unexpected knock at the door. Tonight, in every corner of the country, from Rhode Island to West Virginia to Wyoming, teachers and the surprise playing out in their schools. The hugs from their students, their fellow teachers. The $25,000 checks. The Milken Educator Awards, what some call the Oscars of teaching, for teachers well into their careers. The honor for their tireless work, their dedication, especially in these times. They had no idea it was coming. In Shreveport, Louisiana, at Queensboro Leadership Academy, Principal Marco French.
Hi, David.
Principal French on the power of education.
We have what it takes to make those great, awesome things happen for our students and the community which we serve.
Taylor Ty. In Randolph, Massachusetts, kindergarten and first grade teacher, Mrs. Taylor Ty.
Hi, David.
Mrs. Ty and her hope.
My hope for schools, teachers, and students is to continue inspiring others during this difficult time.
And tonight, it's not just their classrooms, their students, their loved ones who are celebrating them. Oprah is too.
For me, listen, teachers have meant so much in my life. And what I know for sure is that as a teacher, you're creating positive ripples in the lives of your students that will continue to impact them in ways you will likely never know.
And tonight here, we celebrate those teachers too, their dedication, especially in this pandemic. America strong. Well, we do celebrate all of our teachers. They have kept it.
Yep. And I, for one, agree. We do celebrate our teachers because, again, like I said before, guys, teachers themselves do not get a lot of credit. They don't. I mean, I can tell you what I said. If it was not for teachers helping me, I would not be where I am. Like I said before, teachers have the ability, guys, to really, above all else, enrich our lives, to actually help us grow. And I have said it before, without teachers, without dedicated teachers, that's the big thing. Especially those that are, they're the ones that are like, no matter what, they're going to make sure that they bring the best out of you. And those are the teachers that everybody remembers, especially the cool ones that, that's a whole nother story. But anyway, that's going to do it for our podcast, guys. I do want to thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know it's live. I certainly appreciate it. Some shameless plugging before I do get out of here, guys. I do want to shout out to the guys over at Geeks Out, R&D Present Geeks Out, for allowing me to share my podcast on their page. Actually had them on Get Bit this past Friday. A good couple of guys that discuss everything in the world of pop culture and things outside of it through an unfiltered but intelligent open forum. But definitely like talking with them. Always funny, always entertaining. Definitely check them out. R&D Present Geek Salad. Also, shout out to my buddy Vaughn at Big VZA on Facebook. Big VZA on all socials, but either one Westman on Facebook, as he'll be coming back to his podcast, Smoking Trailer Sundays, every Sunday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Of course, the REF podcast every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. But definitely check him out on Facebook as well as all other socials. Now, as for yours truly, guys, I do have my IG handle at BlockFox447. You can definitely follow me there on Instagram, as I do post reviews of movies, video games, definitely movies that are covered in Morbius, but that you can look over there what I saw. But like I said, and I also cover a lot of things, also gym stuff, because I do a couple push-ups. Also, at the same time, guys, I am all about positivity and encouragement. We have had a lot of not so good news in the last couple of years. So let's make 2022 the year of positive encouragement, the year of leaving beefs behind, just celebrating each other, and just really just having that camaraderie, which we desperately so need among everybody. Is the whole thing I'm going for. Also, guys, I know there are pictures down there, but if you can see it, actually got it burned up a little bit bigger. If you copy and paste that link into your browser, will take you to my link tree. That's the YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts, How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bit, and of course the Off Limits podcast. Definitely like, share, and follow everything we do there, as every podcast that we do will be there for you to see and tell the world about it, because we're just trying to make things greater. I'm just trying to be great. I'm trying to be like that little 8-year-old kid who is set up for life. Ryan's World or something like that. Think about this. This kid's not even in puberty, and he's got $10 million in the bank. This kid is set before puberty. Damn. I'm not knocking it. I just like, damn, this makes me wonder what I'm doing wrong in life. But anyway, definitely like and follow me there. And like I said, guys, as the pandemic is going on, please wear a mask. Please get vaccinated if you haven't already done so. We're trying to get these numbers down. We've been here before with the numbers going down, and we think everything is okay. We must be proactive. We must keep our foot on the gas. We must be vigilant, because the only way we're going to beat this pandemic is if we're all in it together. At the same time, guys, still do the random acts of kindness. If you have the ability to make somebody's life great, whether it's a minute, day, hour, lifetime, go ahead and do so. The world needs more random acts of kindness. It takes completely zero energy to be nice. It takes everything in you to be a dick. That's all I'm saying. The last thing I'll say about how the Frack We Got here, it's all about staying informed. We're not trying to change minds. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're not trying to bring you into a cult. No, we're just doing what the news stations of old try to do. Give you all the information, allow you to make up your own mind for yourself, but provide a logical perspective beside of it. We do a lot better as a society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then, like elect our first Madam Vice President, like hopefully very soon electing our first African-American woman on the Supreme Court justice. Hopefully also electing our first African-American woman on the federal board of governors. We hope. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's why we keep asking ourselves, why is everything going up by your paycheck? Why is that the more we elect the same politicians, the same story we get, and most importantly, how the frick do we get here? Thank you all for watching. If you're watching this on the playback, please comment if it's live. I still want to know what you guys thought about everything that we talked about tonight. Aside from that, take care of yourselves and each other, and we will all get through this.